Today we are back with another Canada reaction video. This title really intrigued me. It says, why do Canadians go ballistic during war? And it says it right in the video in the first second here as well. So, okay, Canadians, yeah, how ballistic do you go? We're going to check that out today. If you want to watch this original video for yourself, I'll leave a link in the description. But if you're new to my channel, I am from Australia. So yeah, let's discover if there's more videos like about war, military details, information to learn about in Canada, let me know. Yeah, I'll react to those videos. I've got a link to give requests, so I'll leave that in the comments and description as well. But let's get right into this video today. Let's go.
Why do Canadians go ballistic in war? Ah, Canadians. We all know the stereotype. Nice, friendly, and extremely apologetic. If
you can't be like that when you're going to war.
you're fighting them, though, avoid them at all costs. Because, for some strange reason, these usually calm maple leaf lovers go absolutely ballistic when there's a war on. Trench raids. In World War I, the only thing scarier than going on a trench raid was to be on the receiving end of a Canadian one. Soon after their deployment, the Canucks earned a fearsome reputation as enthusiastic and innovative practitioners of this brutal art. To maximize stealth, they were known to blacken their faces and to wear thick rubber gloves. They also brought along with them a variety of handmade weapons to optimize their killing effectiveness, such as spiked clubs, knives, and...
I mean, if they are truly like how these characters look in their eyes, they've made the eyes just look really intense. Without, they're not. That's not how eyes look. They're just all black. But it makes the intensity in them work.
To optimize their killing effectiveness, such as spiked clubs, knives, and brass knuckles, to allow them to take out enemies silently. Alternatively, pipe bombs and grenade catapults were used if they preferred to go in guns blazing.
Okay.
On operation, the Canadians tore through trenches so quickly and with such cold-blooded efficiency that by the end of the war, they were able to reach up to 1 kilometer behind enemy lines. Their speed and ferocity earned them
I like being on the same wave. You're not using miles like the US. Like we use kilometers in Australia as well. Makes it easier.
1 kilometer behind enemy lines. Their speed and ferocity earned them the nicknames from the terrified Germans, ranging from stormtroopers to wild colonials.
That says one thing specifically. Like if the Germans gave him a nickname, yeah, like that means the Germans have, yeah, they're keeping their eye on Canada to be careful of them. Yeah, don't play with Canada. That's real. Like this animation really suggests as well.
The savage determination of the Canadians was most on show in the 4 months leading up to the Battle of Vimy Ridge, where they conducted 55 raids. The most disastrous of these happened in March of 1917. Involving over 1,300 soldiers, despite suffering an appalling 43% casualty rate and being constantly gassed. One group of raiders was able to clear a 450-meter section of the German trench.
Okay.
Killing prisoners of war. When they weren't going on deadly nighttime raids, the Canadians could usually be found slaughtering prisoners of war. Shockingly, in World War I, the murder of German POWs was actively encouraged by some commanders. Before the attack,
if I got zoned out just for that moment there, like my grandfather, he was prisoner of war as well in China for like 3.5 years. So yeah, like that's hard hitting. And just within like a lot of countries as well, but in Australia, like, yeah, we have like our own celebration to recognize like a day, like most countries do as well, I believe. Yeah, because we had a lot of people back then that fought in the war, World War I, World War II. But yeah, I suppose, yeah, when I hear that kind of reference of like the prisoners of war, yeah, that's where it gets real.
German POWs was actively encouraged by some commanders. Before the attack on Vimy Ridge, for instance, one soldier recalled how an officer told him, "Remember, no prisoners, they'll just eat your rations." Having to share already limited food supplies was just one of the reasons why most preferred to shoot rather than capture. But the most powerful justifications were revenge and battle rage. In a typical account, one lieutenant would recall how, after losing half of his company to machine gun fire, his surviving men rushed to the battery that had caused the damage to find the Germans inside crying and with their hands up. Unmoved, they proceeded to mercilessly bludgeon and shoot them to death.
Yeah, hold up. That ballistic, yeah, they made the Germans cry. I think that's a right definition if you made the Germans cry.
Another would relate on one occasion, a German rushed to one of his comrades with a bayonet, but then chickened out and surrendered. In his own words, our boy would have none of it. He lunged at the German again and again, who each time lowered his arms and stopped the point of the bayonet with his bare hands. The German was screaming for mercy.
Hold up for a second. The storytelling in this video is exceptional. So shout out to the creator on this. Wow, this is really good. It's more than just like a video informational, information type video. It's actually done really well. I'm enjoying it.
The bayonet with his bare hands.
Okay.
The German was screaming for mercy. Even if a surrendering German somehow survived his initial encounter with a wild colonial, his life was still in great danger. In this regard, one veteran would remember how he once witnessed one of his fellow Canadians turn a German POW into red mist by dropping a live grenade into his greatcoat pocket. Live and let die.
Live and let die.
During World War I, soldiers carried out an unofficial live and let live policy. This was an unspoken agreement in which both sides agreed to only attack each other if ordered. The most famous example of this in action was the unofficial 1914 Christmas Day truce, in which
They're playing football in the background too. They had to pass the time somehow, I guess.
Thousands of combatants from both sides exchanged gifts, sang carols, and mingled with each other for a few hours.
Or soccer.
The next year, though, the Canucks were on the front lines, and unlike their allies, live and let live was not in their vocabulary. Among their number were the troops of the 3rd Battalion, who were stationed in the Ypres salient on the Western Front. In the spirit of the previous year, voices from the opposing trench wished them a happy Christmas, and some of the friendlier Canucks returned the greetings.
Okay.
After a couple of minutes, men from both sides had raised their heads above the dugouts, and an older, whiskered man was invitingly waving a box of cigars. Moments later, a Canadian sergeant ruined Christmas by dispatching 2 Germans with his machine gun. Of course, this wouldn't be the last time the Germans of the Great War were tricked into a false sense of security by their heartless North American foe. In one particularly cruel episode, Canuck troops tossed tins of corned beef into a German trench. Then, when they heard their requests for more, they lobbed grenades at them instead.
Reckless.
As the stories so far have illustrated, for some reason, Canadians went absolutely bananas in World War I.
Okay.
But why were they so angry? Some historians have argued their ruthlessness was an emotional response to a battlefield rumor about the so-called crucified Canadian, an officer who was supposedly crucified to a barn door near Ypres.
Wow.
Others have speculated their thirst for revenge drew from their traumatic experience at the harrowing 1915 Second Battle of Ypres, during which Canadians took the brunt of the first ever German poison gas attack of the war. The best explanation, however, may be the simple fact that Canadians were brutalized more than any others because they were always being placed in the first wave of attacks.
Okay.
Juno Beach.
That's fair.
By the close of the Great War, the Canadians had gone from a relatively unknown fighting force to one of the planet's most feared and respected military outfits. It was with this hard-earned reputation that they would enter the killing fields of World War II to face off against a German army reinforced by elite units with a strangely familiar name, Stormtroopers. On June 6, 1944, the Canadians reminded everyone of their elite status when they pulled off what's considered one of the most tactically successful operations of D-Day. Their objective was to storm Juno Beach and then seize the cities of Caen and Bayeux with 14,000 soldiers and 1,000 paratroopers. During the first wave, 3,000 lion-hearted Canadians rushed towards German pillboxes, taking heavy casualties. They were then followed in by tanks, which obliterated most of the German beach defenses, allowing infantrymen to swarm in and begin close-quarters fighting. Impressively, it took them less than 2 hours to secure their first route off the beach at the small town of Courcelles. By the end of the day, Courcelles-sur-Mer, Saint-Aubin-sur-Mer, and Colombier-sur-Soleil had all fallen, and the tank regiment of the 1st Hussars were at the Cannes-Bayou highway intersection, making them the only Allied unit on D-Day to actually reach their final objective. The Devil's Brigade. In World War II, the Canadians distinguished themselves not only as dependable infantrymen, but also as skilled commandos in a joint American-Canadian unit called the 1st Special...
Again, look at the animations of this is so good. Look at the intensity. It would reflect how, everyone is soldiers at war, how they would be in these moments. That's intense. And again, ballistic. You see that in their eyes and the expression.
But also as skilled commandos in a joint American-Canadian unit called the 1st Special Service Force, better known as the Devil's Brigade or the Black Devils. The Devil's Brigade was formed in June 1942 and had only accepted individuals into its ranks who were already well acquainted with survival and the outdoors.
That's fair.
As a result, former skiers, parachutists, hunters, lumberjacks, trappers, and game wardens made up the majority of its personnel. These hard and rugged men were transformed into killing machines via a brutal training regime that involved 100-mile speed marches and specialist training with all sorts of weapons, explosives, and vehicles. To strike fear into their enemies' hearts on the battlefield, they placed a calling card on the dead, emblazoned with the phrase, "The worst is yet to come," in German.
What's that? A calling card on those that have been killed? I didn't want to say that too clear because you don't know what YouTube can do with these words, but the not G-rated words. But someone who is no longer breathing, they put the worst is yet to come. That is probably the most ballistic of them all. And with a bit of a slight disrespect, but I don't mind it. Wow, that's ruthless. Whew. Let me know what you think of that. Wow. That's tough.
Card on the dead, emblazoned with the phrase, "The worst is yet to come," in German. The Black Devils were assigned the most dangerous assignments, with one of their most iconic missions taking place in December of 1943 at the mountain peak of Monte la Defensa, southeast of Rome. For about a month, multiple British, Canadian, and American assaults attempting to dislodge the Germans at the top had been wiped out one after the other. By the time the Devil's Brigade arrived on the scene, Monte la Defensa had been battered with over 200,000 shells, earning it the nickname the $1 Million Hill. At 1:30 a.m.
No, they killed that. They killed that name. The $1 Million Hill. And no pun intended with kill, but... Whew. They got a great name right there.
Earning it the nickname the $1 Million Hill.
The $1 Million Hill.
At 1:30 a.m. on December 3rd, carrying 60-pound rucksacks as well as knives, guns, and bayonets, and with charcoal-blackened faces, 600 men of the 1st Special Service Force began climbing up the near-vertical cliff face as fog and swirling snow enveloped the mountain. A little before 6 a.m., they reached the summit and began quietly slitting the throats of sentries. Then, all of a sudden, a rock slide gave away their position and the enemy opened fire.
Damn.
The fighting was intense and both sides suffered heavy losses, but the battle-hardened Germans were eventually expelled.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. We can have relatives, like I said, our grandparents. Maybe it depends how old you are. Maybe their parent, your grandparents' parents, your great-grandparents. Like, it's like a thing of moments. Like this part that was described here.
And the enemy opened fire. Then, all of a sudden, a rock slide gave away their position and the enemy...
Yeah, like a rock slide gave away their position and then intense.
Opened fire. The fighting was intense, and both
Intent, like in seconds, their situation can change, and yeah, they can get taken away just like that. It's brutal. I can get to the point, like here we're focusing on Canadians going ballistic, and they do. But and this is for me with reacting and learning about any war. Like then I start to get, I think it's from the family's point of view as well. It's like I get a bit sympathetic about anyone, because we're all human at the end of the day, and we're all, or they are all, or were fighting to protect their country. So they all had the same intentions, and yeah, you get a bit sympathetic on that side of it, like, yeah, because they're all trying to do the same thing at the end of the day. It's still sad.
sides suffered heavy losses, but the battle-hardened Germans were eventually expelled. In a mere 2 hours, the month-long standoff had been ended by a force that was 10 times smaller than the combined Allied force that had up until then failed to take Monte la Defensa. With a little help from the Americans, they had shown that once again, that to mess with a Canadian in wartime is to sign your own death warrant.
See, even that too. Obviously, yeah, Canada and the US had the power, the North American power to really combine. And I see, maybe there's a video on that. I don't really know if there's a time in history if USA and Canada maybe fought against each other, or were they always, on each other's side, which would be expected, like from, North America. But, yeah, let me know if there was moments like that or not. I'm sure at least there was arguments, but wow. Yeah. Okay, I get the idea. This channel looks really nice, actually. So, yeah, be sure to check it out. It's just called Simple History, but like I said earlier in the video, I was engrossed in it. It wasn't just learning about what was happening. Like, it was really good. For a bit there, I was just sitting back and enjoying it. Like, to be honest, I felt like it was a throwback to school when I was learning about, when we would learn about the wars, like World War II, and how we were affected, like how Australia was during those times. We didn't really generally learn about Canada and America, not to this extent. So it's cool to learn about this stuff through the videos. So and if we did, it wasn't significant what we learned. So I wouldn't have. I don't connect remembering much from Canada, especially. Probably learned a little bit more about America because the US a bit more significant, which is understandable. So the main point anyway is I like these type of videos. I like just building up my knowledge about Canada. That's what this channel is for, really. So hopefully you enjoyed my reaction. If you got additional information or additional videos for me to react to and learn from, let me know, and I'll see you in another video.